You were only in a few episodes of season 1.
Right.
After you wrapped up with that, was there anything you were really hoping that they were going to include for your character in season 2?
Well, look, I mean, there was always a question of, was the character even going to continue into season 2 and what that would look like. When I first started on the show last year, they said that they loved the idea of the character sticking around and me sticking around. I was doing another show at the time, so that was also potentially going to be in the way. But I did like, I mean, look, I love the character, and I love his sort of where he stands in this setting. Not only in the hospital, being, it's kind of fun. He's kind of badass surgeon and kind of by the book guy a little bit in a hospital full of people who, a lot of whom have come home as medics that were medics in the war. And battlefield medicine is much more of a, by any means necessary, unconventional approach to things. And so that contrast was always really interesting to me. And I like the idea that that TC, for example, and Scott, as much as they would butt heads over that, there was respect between the two of them. There was contention, and obviously there was the girl that we were fighting over. But they also, allowed for moments, the writers and producers did, where they would see, they would respect and see the good in each other's approaches. And there's one particular moment where I'm losing somebody, and I know that basically I'm at the bounds of the medicine that I practice, and so I call for him, and I basically say, look, if you've learned anything on the battlefield that can save this person, go for it, because I'm out of options. And so it was just really authentic feeling, interesting feeling, contrasts of styles and the way people practice medicine, and that continues on into the season. But I think obviously there was some unfinished business between TC and Jordan and Scott. TC and Jordan have been on this kind of collision course for each other, and the writing was on the wall at the end of last season that it just started to feel like I'm not ever really going to have her. She's, she seems to belong to him, and I love the idea of exploring, what might life look like for all of these characters in the aftermath of that changing. And so, I love the character, I love this group of actors, and I love the show. And so I was happy to hear that they wanted to continue with the character, and I think he provides an interesting sort of stroke of character to the story, in the sense that he's obviously incredibly good at what he does, and he's a little bit of the heavy, because at the end of the day, as rowdy and by the seat of their pants this crew wants to be, there's accountability to be had here, and it's important, I think, to have an energy, a vibe, a person, or a series of people in this setting that are going to kind of keep all that stuff in check, even if it's resisted or causes tensions.
So does he kind of become the new Ragosa to a degree now that he's switched sides?
On some level, sure. I think there's, he does represent, you could call it the voice of reason, or the voice of, there's an authority or a protocol, a right way to do things. And, right when we jump in this first episode, there's, this incredibly traumatic injury, and there's this person who's going to die. And right away we see that contrast of styles, where I come out, in defense of the best interests of this hospital. And in the end, what I love about of Scott, Dr. Clemens, is that he is a save the life first person. So, he's going to toe the line and protect the right way of doing things as he sees it, up to the point at which someone's going to die otherwise. And I'm glad that he's a reasonable enough character to, to adjust to that. And right away we see all of those things play out. All the while which is one of the fun things about the show, is there's these incredibly intense medical things happening and life and death. And then all the relationship stuff sort of sitting under it. So, right away there's TC and Jordan and Scott with a dying person over there, and how do they sort of navigate not just the medical part of it, but the personal part of it. And it's fun. It's fun storytelling when there's all those layers.
Watching the earlier episodes, I was waiting to see if it was going to get to Scott's head at all, but he makes the right calls. It looks like he's going to snap at any moment.
Yeah.
But he holds it together.
Yeah, I mean, what I think look, my take on the guy, and it was, a lot of it was based on how they wrote him last year, and how they've written him this year too, is, he's a person who could have been like, my girlfriend broke up with me, I'm going back to Dallas, I'm taking my ball and going home, and the heck with this place and whatever else was going on here. But I think he's really taken by the amount of medicine he's able to practice here, and how hands-on he's able to be, and how much control he has over saving lives. And the fact that comes first to him, I think, is really cool. And as the story goes on, he's a human being, and so we'll see ebbs and flows of his ability to compartmentalize everything that happened with Jordan, but he's always, I feel like, a person who, at least thus far, who is able to say, I don't, whatever's going on between all of us, there's a dying person here who needs saving, and he's able to just focus on that.
It's important.
Yeah.
How about his relationship with Paul? Because I hear that he's kind of training Paul, and then Chavez is training Krista in the surgery department.
Right, and that's sort of just beginning now in the story. Is that Paul has become Scott's surgical resident, and I'm really excited about that. I mean, Robert is just an incredible guy, and he's a really good actor, and he and I haven't had a chance to do all that much together, and so I'm thrilled that this is the direction the story's gone in. And I love one of the things the sides we haven't had a chance to see of Scott yet is, look, we've seen him in this love triangle, we've seen some tension, we've seen the part of him that resists this kind of battlefield, like the hell with the rules mentality. And so we've seen him defending things, and we haven't necessarily seen a lot of him mentoring and sort of championing and helping someone along. And so I love the chance to show that side of him. And I've always thought that, he could have come in and just been, kind of a dick from day one. Not allowed to say dick. He could have been, like, they could have brought Scott in as a character and just had him be kind of a foil to TC, right? And just kind of a boob and a guy who you were like, nah, heck with him, only TC. And instead they wrote a much more three-dimensional guy. And I feel like it was really smart because it made it harder for the audience. You don't want to make it too easy on the audience. You want them kind of pining for things.
They also made him feel necessary. It felt like the night shift would crumble if he had left.
Well, that's interesting. I feel like, yes, there was a sense of, he grounded things a little bit, in the sense, sometimes to a fault, right? Sometimes he was fighting a little harder, or the style that he sort of protected situations with, maybe caused more tension than there could have been otherwise. But yeah, I do feel like at the end of the day, it is life and death, and for all of the great intentions of everyone in the hospital. The other thing though is, instead of TC being a total mess, this is where the storytelling and the characterizations here get me really excited and made me want to come be part of this show and make me excited to be a continued part of the show. Is all of these characters could be, as all characters in any storytelling, could just be kind of cookie cutter and cliche and TC could just be the screw up all day, every day, and Scott could be just the sort of domineering, this is the, my way or the highway kind of guy. And everyone's just more complicated than that, as people are in life. And so, there are times where Scott has been tried to dominate and control and keep things in line. And then there are other times where he's admitted that he's out of options and at the end of his abilities and needs help. And TC, he can be in trouble at times, but he's also a really incredible physician. And so, I think that's one of the things that makes a story good and worth watching and telling is if it actually rings true, because, nobody's just some sort of, checked off box of an idea of a person. They all feel like real people.